Arrival in a strange land. Hook statement. Imagine stepping off a ship after years of war, expecting hardship and punishment, only to find endless green fields stretching as far as the eye can see. Historical background/context. Between 1942 and 1945, over 400,000 German prisoners of war were brought to the United States. Captured in North Africa, Italy, and later Europe, they were transported thousands of miles from battlefields to remote rural areas of America. Most POWs had endured months of hardship, cold nights, meager rations, and constant fear. When they arrived, they were met not with barbed wire despair, but with wide-open landscapes, orderly camps, and surprisingly calm surroundings. For men who had been trained for survival and struggle, the sheer size and openness of American farmlands and countryside felt like entering another world entirely. Why it mattered or was popular. This first impression set the tone for everything that followed. The contrast between war-ravaged Europe and the abundance of the American heartland was undeniable. Many POWs later recounted how the spaciousness, orderliness, and visible prosperity of the countryside gave them a first taste of what life could be like without constant struggle. These initial impressions were critical. They created a sense of wonder and disbelief that lingered throughout their captivity. Emotional or shocking twist. For prisoners who had braced themselves for the worst, America's beauty and apparent calm were almost surreal. Letters home often started with astonished descriptions of the scenery, vast fields, bustling farms, and tidy towns far removed from the destruction they had left behind. It wasn't just a new country, it was a revelation. Many POWs later admitted that these first moments, stepping into a world so different from what they knew, planted seeds of curiosity, and even admiration, that would grow during their entire time in captivity. Smooth transition to next point. But the landscape was only the beginning. While the open fields impressed them, it was the unexpected bounty on their plates that would truly leave German POWs in disbelief, setting the stage for their next shock, the reality of America's food abundance. 2. Expect Hook statement. After years of war, many German soldiers braced themselves for the worst, empty plates and harsh treatment, but America had a very different plan. Historical background/context. Having endured bombed-out cities, ration lines, and years of scarcity, German POWs arrived in the U.S. with grim expectations. News from home painted a picture of desperation, and many assumed that, as prisoners of the enemy, they would face deliberate deprivation. After all, starvation was a weapon they themselves had seen wielded in occupied territories. Yet, upon entering their American camps, they were met with mess halls stocked with more food than they could have imagined. The contrast was staggering. Instead of hunger, there was plenty. Instead of punishment, there was order and care. Why it mattered or was popular. This initial disbelief played a pivotal role in reshaping their perception of America. Food, after all, is more than sustenance. It is security, comfort, and a symbol of stability. For men who had known nothing but wartime scarcity, seeing abundant meals prepared for them challenged every expectation. Their skepticism gave way to curiosity, and letters sent home often reflected that mix of astonishment and incredulity. Emotional or shocking twist. Many POWs confessed that they had prepared themselves to suffer and be malnourished, yet found themselves eating more than they had in years. Some even feared it was a trick, or worried about guilt over enjoying comforts while families back in Germany starved. The sheer contrast between their expectations and reality left an emotional mark, planting seeds of respect and, in some cases, admiration for the very country they had once considered the enemy. Smooth transition to next point. This contrast between expectation and reality was not just surprising, it was a promise of fair treatment under international law. And that brings us to the next chapter of their story. How the Geneva Convention guaranteed their right to proper food and care. Asians of starvation. 3. The Geneva Convention guarantee. Hook statement. Even in war, rules mattered, and for German POWs, those rules meant they wouldn't go hungry in America. Historical background/context. The 1929 Geneva Convention outlined clear protections for prisoners of war, including adequate food, shelter, and medical care. The United States, committed to international law, implemented these standards rigorously. Camps were constructed with proper kitchens, mess halls, and storage facilities. Officers ensured that POWs received daily meals that met or exceeded the caloric requirements outlined in the treaty. Unlike the uncertainty of battlefields or occupied territories, here there were laws in place guaranteeing humane treatment. Why it mattered or was popular. For the prisoners, this adherence to law was a revelation. Many had expected mistreatment, punishment, or at least minimal sustenance. The knowledge that their basic needs were protected instilled a sense of stability, which allowed them to focus on day-to-day life in the camp rather than survival. It also became a point of pride for some POWs, who recognized the fairness of a system that valued human dignity even during conflict. Emotional or shocking twist. For soldiers accustomed to the chaos of war and the scarcity of occupied Europe, seeing their captors honor international law was almost unbelievable. The Geneva Convention wasn't just a set of rules on paper, it became a tangible experience of compassion, embodied in the abundance on their plates and the care of the camp staff. Smooth transition to next point. But while rules guaranteed food, it was the sheer abundance of it that truly left POWs astonished, highlighting the contrast between America and war-torn Europe. 4. Food abundance versus war-torn Europe. Hook statement. Imagine expecting starvation and instead finding a world where food never seemed to run out. Historical background/context. By the early 1940s, much of Europe was devastated by bombing, occupation, and blockade. Rations in Germany were minimal, with many civilians and soldiers surviving on bread, potatoes, and ersatz substitutes. In stark contrast, American farmland was thriving. The U.S. had vast stretches of wheat, corn, livestock, and vegetables, ensuring that civilians and POWs never faced scarcity. Camps were stocked with meat, fresh produce, dairy, and more, creating an environment almost unimaginable to a soldier from the European front. Why it mattered or was popular. This abundance made an immediate impression. POWs quickly realized that the U.S. was not just a military superpower, it was economically stable and prosperous. Food became a symbol of that strength, demonstrating a level of civilian and military planning that contrasted sharply with the privations they had left behind. Emotional or shocking twist. For men who had grown up with ration cards and empty markets, the American mess hall seemed surreal. Some even joked that they were eating better than German civilians at home, highlighting the emotional shock of living in a land where food was plentiful and worry about the next meal almost non-existent. Smooth transition to next point. And it wasn't just the presence of food, it was the quality and generosity of daily meals that left POWs truly stunned. 5. Generous daily meals. Hook statement. Every day, trays were filled with more than sustenance. They were a glimpse of a life many POWs had never known. Historical background/context. Typical daily meals included bread, meat, potatoes, and a variety of vegetables. Portions were carefully planned to meet nutritional needs, but they were far larger than anything POWs had seen in Europe. Camp cooks, sometimes even German POWs themselves, prepared meals that were not only adequate but hearty and satisfying. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner followed a predictable schedule, giving prisoners a sense of routine and comfort. Why it mattered or was popular. For men who had endured years of wartime shortages, the consistency and generosity of meals were astonishing. It wasn't just that there was enough to eat, it was that meals were varied, filling, and sometimes even indulgent. This steady supply of nourishing food created stability and eased the psychological strain of captivity. Emotional or shocking twist. Many POWs later admitted that the generosity of these meals seemed almost surreal. Some would joke about being fed like kings, while others quietly marveled at how life in captivity could feel safer and more abundant than life back home. These meals didn't just feed the body, they reshaped perceptions of the United States as a land of plenty. Smooth transition to next point. While the quantity impressed them, it was the massive portion sizes that often left POWs in awe, highlighting a cultural and nutritional shock that would linger throughout their time in America. 6. Portion sizes that shocked. Hook statement. For men used to scraping together enough to survive, the size of an American meal was nothing short of astonishing. Historical background/context. In Europe, years of rationing meant small servings of bread, thin soups, and minimal meat. In contrast, U.S. POW camps served trays brimming with generous portions of meat, potatoes, and vegetables. The sheer quantity of food was planned not only to meet daily caloric needs but also to promote health, growth, and morale. Meals were consistent, hearty, and often more filling than anything they had eaten in years. Why it mattered or was popular. The portion sizes were a cultural shock, showing POWs the abundance available in a nation untouched by the devastation that plagued Europe. For many, It was a tangible lesson in American prosperity. It wasn't just the presence of food, it was the boldness of its generosity that fascinated them. Emotional or shocking twist. Some prisoners would stare at their overflowing plates, unsure where to start, while others joked that they could never finish such a meal. The experience of consistently being able to eat until satisfied was transformative, especially for men who had spent years counting calories and rationing scraps. Smooth transition to next point. But it wasn't just the quantity of food that amazed POWs, the quality and luxuries of American staples were equally surprising. 7. Luxuries in plain sight. Hook statement. Milk, butter, and eggs, simple staples that had become rare luxuries back home, were freely available every day. Historical background/context. In wartime Germany, dairy products were rationed or entirely unavailable. American camps, however, had access to abundant supplies, reflecting the country's strong agricultural infrastructure. POWs were served fresh milk at every meal, butter for spreading, and eggs cooked in a variety of ways. Even small details, like the availability of condiments and fresh bread, highlighted the stark contrast to European scarcity. Why it mattered or was popular. These everyday luxuries gave POWs a rare taste of comfort. They were not just filling, they were a small, daily reminder that life in America, even behind barbed wire, was unexpectedly generous. For soldiers accustomed to deprivation, these simple pleasures carried emotional weight, symbolizing stability and abundance. Emotional or shocking twist. Some POWs quietly expressed guilt over enjoying such treats while families at home suffered. Others, though, found joy in the novelty, marveling that the enemy they had feared could offer such kindness. The experience subtly shifted attitudes and softened the harsh lens through which they had viewed America. Smooth transition to next point. While these staples amazed them, it was the desserts, cakes, pies, and ice cream that truly blew POWs' minds, creating moments of pure delight. 8. Desserts beyond imagination. Hook statement. For German POWs, sweets like cakes, pies, and ice cream were once unimaginable luxuries, and suddenly they were part of daily life. Historical background/context. Back home, sugar and other sweeteners were rationed, and treats were rare. In U.S. camps, desserts were often included in meals, and ice cream became a weekly highlight. Mess halls served cakes or pies during holidays or special occasions, allowing POWs to experience flavors that had long been denied to them. Even the simplest chocolate or fruit pie was a small revelation. Why it mattered or was popular. Desserts were more than indulgence, they were morale boosters. These sweet treats reminded POWs of normalcy and the comforts of civilian life. They became talking points, shared experiences, and even a source of camaraderie among prisoners. The presence of dessert demonstrated not only American abundance but also attention to the well-being of captives. Emotional or shocking twist. Many POWs wrote home about the impossibility of being served such treats as prisoners. Ice cream, in particular, was often described with amazement, a symbol of the generosity and unexpected kindness of the U.S. For soldiers who had been conditioned to austerity, desserts became a small but powerful window into a world of plenty. Hook statement. For men who had survived years of ration substitutes, the aroma of real coffee was almost unbelievable. Historical background/context. During the war in Europe, coffee was a luxury few could afford. Soldiers and civilians often relied on substitutes like roasted barley or chicory to mimic the flavor. In U.S. POW camps, however, coffee was served daily, brewed strong and fresh. It was not merely a beverage, it was a ritual, providing warmth, comfort, and a connection to normal life. Camp kitchens prioritized regular service, ensuring that every prisoner could enjoy this small but meaningful indulgence. Why it mattered or was popular. Coffee symbolized normalcy and abundance. For POWs, it was a tangible reminder that life in America operated under different rules, where even everyday comforts were accessible. Sharing a cup became a social moment, a way to bond and momentarily escape the monotony of camp life. Emotional or shocking twist. Some prisoners were stunned that an enemy country would offer such simple pleasures freely. Letters often described the shock of tasting real coffee after years of substitutes. For many, it was a subtle but powerful signal that captivity could still include dignity and enjoyment. Smooth transition to next point. While coffee stirred the senses, it was the weight gain experienced by many POWs that reflected just how dramatically life in America differed from wartime Europe. 10. weight gain and surprising health. Hook statement. After years of scarcity, many German POWs discovered that life in American camps could actually make them healthier. Historical background/context. With generous portions of meat, potatoes, vegetables, dairy, and desserts, POWs often consumed far more calories than they had in years. Balanced meals and regular schedules contributed to physical recovery. Soldiers who had once been gaunt and frail began to regain weight and strength, much to their own surprise. This newfound health was not just physical, it had a profound psychological effect, signaling safety and stability. Why it mattered or was popular. For POWs, regaining weight was a visible marker of abundance and security. Many kept track of their progress, noting pounds gained and strength returned. This contrast between the emaciation of wartime Europe and the nourishment of American captivity became a recurring topic in letters and memoirs. Emotional or shocking twist. Some men admitted to feeling guilt over their improved condition, especially when imagining family members struggling back home. Yet for others, this weight gain was a small triumph, proof that even in captivity, life could offer unexpected comfort and care. Smooth transition to next point. Their newfound health and abundance often prompted POWs to share their experiences with family, leading to stories that would shock loved ones back in Germany. 11. Letters home sparked disbelief. Hook statement. The stories of overflowing plates and unexpected treats left families in Germany questioning reality itself. Historical background/context. POWs frequently wrote letters describing the food and daily life in American camps. They detailed fresh bread, meat, dairy, and even desserts, painting a picture far removed from the hardships of wartime Europe. Postal inspections occasionally limited content, but enough made it through to astonish families. Relatives often found these accounts difficult to believe, as they struggled with rationing and hunger themselves. Why it mattered or was popular. These letters were more than updates. They were windows into a strange and prosperous world. They provided reassurance that their loved ones were alive, healthy, and even thriving in unexpected ways. Stories of abundance became shared anecdotes, spreading through communities and creating a narrative that challenged preconceived notions of the enemy. Emotional or shocking twist. Many POWs expressed a mix of pride, disbelief, and guilt. They were eating better than most civilians back home, yet they felt powerless to help. These letters captured the human complexity of war, highlighting both the generosity of their captors and the enduring hardships of those left behind. Smooth transition to next point. While written words could astonish families, certain luxury treats like cigarettes and chocolate delivered in rations left POWs equally stunned. Cigarettes and chocolate treats. Hook statement. For German POWs, small indulgences like cigarettes and chocolate were luxuries they had long since given up, yet here, they were part of daily life. Historical background/context. By 1944, German soldiers rarely had access to cigarettes or chocolate. Rationing and supply shortages made such treats almost mythical. In American POW camps, however, these items were often included in rations. Cigarettes were distributed regularly, and small chocolate bars or candy occasionally appeared in meal trays or as special gifts. These luxuries reflected both the abundance of U.S. supplies and a deliberate effort to maintain prisoner morale. Why it mattered or was popular. These treats were more than just indulgences, they were symbols of normalcy and comfort. For men who had been accustomed to strict rationing, receiving such items felt almost surreal. Sharing chocolate or cigarettes became a social ritual, providing moments of camaraderie and joy amid captivity. Emotional or shocking twist. Many POWs expressed surprise and even guilt at enjoying these luxuries while loved ones back home faced hardship. Yet the generosity and consistency of such small comforts left a lasting impression, subtly reshaping their perception of America. Smooth transition to next point. While treats offered indulgence, the overall camp environment often felt more like a hotel than a prison, leaving POWs stunned by the level of comfort and order. 13. Camps that felt like hotels. Hook statement. Some German POWs joked that they were living better in America than they had in Germany, complete with clean bedding, tidy rooms, and hearty meals. Historical background/context. U.S. POW camps were designed to meet international standards, with barracks maintained for cleanliness, organized mess halls, and even recreational facilities. Many camps had libraries, sports areas, and access to music or newspapers. Guards enforced rules humanely, creating an environment that was orderly and surprisingly comfortable. Compared to bombed-out cities and crowded barracks in Europe, these camps felt luxurious. Why it mattered or was popular. The hotel-like atmosphere offered a psychological reprieve from the horrors of war. POWs could focus on daily routines, socialize, and even pursue hobbies, fostering a sense of stability. It also underscored the U.S. commitment to humane treatment, aligning with the Geneva Convention and demonstrating a cultural difference that many prisoners noted with amazement. Emotional or shocking twist. The irony wasn't lost on them. While they were prisoners, some POWs found the life surprisingly comfortable. Letters home sometimes included tongue-in-cheek complaints about the pampered conditions, highlighting both humor and disbelief at their treatment. Smooth transition to next point. Among the comforts that amazed POWs were fresh, seasonal fruits and vegetables, items that were often scarce in Europe and a vivid reminder of American abundance. Seasonal fruits and vegetables. Hook statement. Apples, corn, tomatoes. Fresh produce appeared on tables as if straight from the farm, astonishing men used to ration diets. Historical background/context. Wartime Germany faced severe food shortages, with fresh fruits and vegetables being a rare treat. In contrast, U.S. camps were often located near farms producing an abundance of crops. Mess halls regularly served fresh produce, reflecting not only nutritional planning but also the accessibility of American agriculture. POWs had access to seasonal fruits year-round, sometimes even canned or preserved varieties, ensuring variety in every meal. Why it mattered or was popular. Fresh fruits and vegetables provided essential vitamins and nutrients missing from European diets during the war. They also offered a sensory reminder of life outside captivity, the colors, smells, and flavors of real, wholesome food. This contributed to improved health and morale among POWs. Emotional or shocking twist. For men who had subsisted on ration bread and thin soups, the appearance of crisp apples or ripe tomatoes felt almost magical. Some POWs later reflected that these simple foods created lasting memories of abundance, shaping their appreciation for American agriculture and prosperity. Smooth transition to next point. As the seasons changed, holidays brought special touches to meals, leading to Christmas feasts behind barbed wire, which became moments of unexpected joy and tradition. Christmas feasts behind barbed wire. Hook statement. Even in captivity, the spirit of Christmas brought warmth, joy, and unexpected feasts to POW camps. Historical background/context. American camps often celebrated holidays with special meals. For German POWs, Christmas became a rare opportunity to experience traditions in a peaceful setting. Mess halls were decorated when possible, and meals included turkey, stuffing, pies, and sometimes candies or small gifts. These celebrations reflected a commitment to humane treatment and a recognition of prisoners' morale. Why it mattered or was popular. Holiday feasts provided a sense of normalcy and comfort, breaking the monotony of camp life. For POWs, it was a reminder of home and family, bridging the gap between captivity and the world they had left behind. These celebrations created memories that many recalled fondly long after the war. Emotional or shocking twist. Some prisoners were astonished that even their captors went to such lengths to maintain tradition and provide joy. It was a stark contrast to the scarcity and danger they had known during the war, proof that generosity and kindness could exist even amidst conflict. Smooth transition to next point. Beyond special occasions, many POWs found daily routines in the kitchen engaging, as German POWs often became cooks themselves, blending familiarity with American abundance. 16. German POWs became cooks. Hook statement. Behind the scenes, many prisoners took control of their meals, discovering both creativity and comfort in the kitchen. Historical background/context. Camps often allowed POWs to assist in meal preparation, giving them a sense of autonomy. German soldiers with culinary experience could prepare familiar European-style dishes, but with access to the generous ingredients provided by the Americans. Kitchens became lively spaces of learning, experimentation, and cultural exchange. Why it mattered or was popular. Cooking allowed POWs to maintain cultural traditions and culinary skills. It also provided a constructive activity, boosting morale and giving a sense of purpose. Preparing meals for themselves and others created camaraderie and pride, transforming a routine necessity into an enjoyable and educational experience. Emotional or shocking twist. For many, It was surreal to prepare dishes with ingredients they had never dreamed of using during the war. Butter, eggs, fresh meat, and vegetables allowed them to cook in ways impossible back home, giving a taste of abundance while reinforcing the stark contrast between America and Europe. Smooth transition to next point. This abundance wasn't accidental. It was part of a deliberate strategy, as food became a subtle tool of propaganda, showcasing the prosperity and values of the United States. 17. Food as propaganda. Hook statement. Beyond nourishment, food became a quiet ambassador of American strength and generosity. Historical background/context. The U.S. government recognized that humane treatment of POWs could influence perceptions. Providing abundant high-quality meals demonstrated the nation's economic stability and moral commitment, highlighting the contrast with wartime Europe. Mess halls, well-stocked with fresh ingredients and treats, were as much a statement of national pride as they were about nutrition. Why it mattered or was popular. Good treatment created respect, if not admiration, for the country that had once been the enemy. It subtly reinforced the idea that the United States was prosperous, organized, and just values that were difficult for POWs to ignore. Emotional or shocking twist. Many POWs later admitted that the abundance of food reshaped their perceptions of America. Simple meals carried an unspoken message. Here was a nation capable of strength without cruelty, abundance without selfishness, a revelation that challenged long-held wartime prejudices. Smooth transition to next point. This insight became even more tangible when POWs worked on American farms, witnessing firsthand the vast harvests and labor behind the bounty on their tables. Hook statement. Imagine stepping into endless fields of wheat, corn, and livestock, far more than you ever saw back home. Historical background/context. Many German POWs were assigned to work on American farms, assisting with planting, harvesting, and general labor. The United States' vast agricultural infrastructure contrasted sharply with war-torn Europe, where crops were scarce and famine loomed. POWs witnessed firsthand the scale of production: endless fields, healthy livestock, and abundant produce. It was a living classroom in productivity and abundance, showcasing a nation capable of feeding millions. Why it mattered or was popular. For prisoners, this experience was eye-opening. The harvests they helped gather were not just for camp consumption, they supported local communities, showing the organizational might and economic stability of America. It offered a rare chance to see the connection between labor and reward in a country untouched by starvation. Emotional or shocking twist. Many POWs were awed by the sight of so much food, realizing that even those working in captivity had access to more than ordinary Europeans at home. Some felt pride in contributing, while others were humbled by the contrast between abundance here and deprivation in Germany. Smooth transition to next point. While hands-on work revealed America's bounty, it was the variety of foods available in the mess hall that truly astonished prisoners, offering endless choices day after day. 19. Variety that defied expectations. Hook statement. From canned goods to fresh produce, POWs found themselves surrounded by options they could hardly imagine. Historical background/context. Camp kitchens offered a wide range of foods: fresh vegetables, fruits, meats, grains, and preserved items. Unlike the monotony of European rations, POWs could choose between different dishes, enjoying seasonal produce alongside staples and even occasional desserts. Mess halls were designed for both nutrition and variety, ensuring prisoners were well-fed and engaged. Why it mattered or was popular. The abundance of choice was more than practical, it was a psychological shock. It emphasized the disparity between life in America and wartime Europe. Men who had grown accustomed to bland, repetitive meals suddenly found themselves savoring a colorful, flavorful, and varied diet. Emotional or shocking twist. Some POWs described the mess hall as a wonderland, where the act of choosing a meal became almost indulgent. The endless options underscored a central theme of captivity in America. Even as prisoners, they were treated with dignity and respect. Smooth transition to next point. Yet, even the lowest-ranking laborers in camps ate better than many civilians back home, a reality that further highlighted the disparity between nations at war. 20. Laborers ate better than civilians at home. Hook statement. For some German prisoners, life in America meant enjoying meals more substantial than what their families could access back home. Historical background/context. Many POWs worked in fields, factories, and kitchens, often performing hard physical labor. Yet their daily rations were plentiful and nutritious, often exceeding what even average German civilians could obtain during wartime shortages. Bread, meat, vegetables, and dairy were regularly provided, ensuring both sustenance and health. Why it mattered or was popular. This reality created a stark contrast with Europe, where civilian rationing was strict and food scarcity was widespread. POWs realized that despite being captives, they had a security and abundance unavailable to many of their compatriots. Emotional or shocking twist. The irony was not lost on them. Men who had expected hunger and deprivation were now fed more reliably and generously than families struggling under rationing back home. This experience prompted mixed emotions, gratitude, disbelief, and even guilt, but it also reinforced their growing admiration for the organizational and economic strength of the United States. Smooth transition to next point. Among these unexpected delights, one treat stood out above all others. Ice cream, a simple indulgence that seemed almost magical to POWs. Ice cream. The ultimate surprise. Hook statement. For German POWs, the mere idea of being served ice cream was almost unimaginable, a sweet indulgence from a world they thought was lost. Historical background/context. During the war, sugar was rationed heavily in Germany, and luxuries like ice cream were virtually unattainable. In contrast, American POW camps occasionally offered ice cream as a treat, often on special days or weekends. Creamy, cold, and sweet, it quickly became a highlight for prisoners, a small luxury that brightened an otherwise regimented routine. Why it mattered or was popular. Ice cream symbolized abundance and care. Beyond the novelty, it offered a moment of joy and indulgence that reminded POWs of normal life and childhood comforts. It was a treat that lifted spirits and created memories long remembered after the war. Emotional or shocking twist. Prisoners were astonished that their captors would provide such a luxury freely. Some even remarked that they had never expected to enjoy sweets as a prisoner of war, making ice cream a symbol of American generosity and a source of ongoing amazement. Smooth transition to next point. While ice cream delighted the senses, food in general became a larger symbol, representing American wealth, strength, and stability that left a lasting impression on POWs. 22. Food symbolized strength and wealth. Hook statement. For prisoners accustomed to scarcity, the abundance of American meals spoke louder than words. It was a testament to national power and prosperity. Historical background/context. During World War II, the U.S. remained largely untouched by the destruction ravaging Europe. Farmland was productive, supply chains were intact, and logistics ensured that even prisoners of war were well fed. Meals were a visual and tangible demonstration of economic resilience, offering more than nutrition. They were proof that America could sustain both its citizens and captives simultaneously. Why it mattered or was popular. For POWs, the food on their plates became an unexpected education in national strength. Every meal of meat, bread, vegetables, and dessert was evidence that the country was thriving, even in wartime. It shaped perceptions, showing that military might was paired with economic stability and human care. Emotional or shocking twist. Some prisoners admitted that the abundance challenged their assumptions about the enemy. The generous meals and visible prosperity made it hard to maintain a purely negative view of America, planting seeds of respect that lingered well beyond their captivity. Smooth transition to next point. Yet, even as they marveled at abundance, many POWs experienced a sense of guilt over eating so well while families back home suffered, adding complexity to their emotions. 23. Guilt over abundance. Hook statement. For some POWs, enjoying American meals was bittersweet, a comfort shadowed by concern for loved ones back home. Historical background/context. Many German soldiers had left families behind in a country facing rationing, bombings, and shortages. While POWs dined on meat, vegetables, and desserts, news from home often spoke of hardship. This stark contrast produced feelings of guilt, as prisoners questioned how they could enjoy luxuries while loved ones struggled. Why it mattered or was popular. These emotions humanized the POW experience, showing that abundance was not purely joyful. It highlighted the psychological complexity of captivity. Prisoners were fed and cared for, yet carried the weight of empathy and worry for those far away. Emotional or shocking twist. Some POWs confessed in letters or later memoirs that the guilt was persistent, even as they acknowledged the generosity of their captors. The experience of abundance, therefore, was not merely physical. It became a moral and emotional lesson in empathy, fairness, and the contrasts of war. Smooth transition to next point. Despite these mixed emotions, the overall experience of American food often softened attitudes toward the country, reshaping opinions and leaving lasting impressions. Softened attitudes toward America. Hook statement. For many German POWs, the kindness and abundance they experienced quietly changed their view of the country they once saw as the enemy. Historical background/context. Over time, the combination of fair treatment, generous meals, and humane living conditions left a profound impact. POWs witnessed a society capable of strength, prosperity, and compassion, all while at war. Camp routines, combined with experiences like working on farms or participating in recreational activities, demonstrated that life in America, even as a prisoner, was marked by dignity and respect. Why it mattered or was popular. This shift in perception was subtle but powerful. It showed that human behavior, even in wartime, could transcend political boundaries. POWs began to admire American organization, generosity, and values, often comparing their treatment to the hardships faced by ordinary people back home. Emotional or shocking twist. Some POWs admitted feeling a sense of gratitude or even admiration for the United States, acknowledging that their preconceptions had been wrong. The experience of abundance, kindness, and order softened hearts and created lasting respect, leaving an emotional imprint that endured long after their release. Smooth transition to next point. For a few, this newfound respect went beyond memory. It became a reason to return permanently, leading to the final chapter, returning as immigrants. 25. Returning as immigrants. Hook statement. For some former POWs,